Welcome to another CIRF report, everybody. My name is Chris McCleary. We have another week of energy that is in complete alignment with what seems to be happening out in the real world. But it's going to be a tricky week. This is a tricky, energetic week. So I'm warning you now that the influence that you're probably going to feel is going to trick you into carrying out a different behavior than what our solution slide is. That's why we do these CIRF reports, is we triangulate not just for the influence, but we also triangulate for the solution, the behavior that you should be using. It's for weeks like this, because I'm having a feeling that people are going to be feeling maybe tired, lethargic, tired of the minutia, the crap, tired of the fight, etc., and it might feel real heavy. And normally, as a psychotherapist, I would advise a different solution, but I'm going by the triangulation. So for those of you who are new here, we're triangulating for the influence. That's what this slide is all about. And then we triangulate also for the solution. So that, in my opinion, is the most important part, is the solution. So if you don't have time today to watch the approximately 30-minute video is my goal, then at least slide this video to the end or near the end, or at least the last third, so you can get the full solution. In my opinion, that's the most important part. But it's also important to know what kind of energies are going to influence you. So that's what this slide is all about. We have the presidential election is still on the table, and even if there's no contesting, there's the electoral process that I believe the next milestone is the 14th of December. So that's why this is a big influence, not just for America, but for the entire world. Now, it seems like the Dreambot, which is the collective unconscious, yes, we do the collective dreams. And by the way, if you're new here, I'm not going to do much explaining because that's going to take way too long. So there's a beginner's guide that might help on my channel. Go look that up, but welcome. But just realize that a lot of this might be real new. It's not just astrology. We look at the collective dreams so we can get the subconscious, and it's saying that people are ready to give up, but there's also 50% who want to keep fighting on. All right. So we got that struggle. That is directly related to the presidential cycle and the election. Okay. Then we do the I-Ching. That's the well. That's depth. That is sounds like shadow work. But guess what? For the people who hate shadow work, this isn't the week for shadow work. Yay. It's something else. And it's not hard work, what we're going to be doing. Well, for some of you, it might be. But the astrology, okay, so that's the purple circle. The astrology is also depth. We're looking at Venus and Scorpio. Scorpio is all that deep water and emotion and vindictiveness and secretiveness and that kind of thing. Mercury is in there too. The sun is in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is depth of more of the philosophy and spirituality, but it's depth as well. And then you've got Mars square Pluto. Pluto is the inner power, and its rules, well, Mars and Pluto rule Scorpio. So we're back to Scorpio again. It's the depth. It's all pointing, the astrology is pointing to depth. It's digging deep. Now, the Dreambot, the collective unconscious, and the U.S. presidential election, they're kind of offset 50% of this. But the I-Ching, the well, and the astrology are directly overlined. So we have a high congruency score, but parts of the Dreambot aren't matching. So that's what we got for the influence. We're going to get started with the dreams next. And if you are seeing this for the first time, like everyone says, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of these weekly reports. But keep in mind, if you've already subscribed on YouTube, go check out Rumble and BitChute. I'm going to start feeding those over there just in case, maybe, I don't know, either censorship or maybe YouTube falls apart altogether. You never know. All right. So here we are, collective unconscious, the set of dreams. Let's get it zoomed in for you. We have half of the collective is saying give up. This is process, ill, tired, war. They're just tired and they're giving up. But then the red arrows, they're ready to fight on. Improve is the top word. That's encouraging. And then you've got kind of weapon stuff, club and guns, and then like just yang stuff. Okay. So there's like a fight on versus give up. Now I do have a linguistics. This is really interesting. I thought sleep thing. What about I'm thinking about the people who are asleep, the sheep, they're still asleep. Sleep thing. Exactly. Guns, maybe learn. Maybe that's when people really start to wake up. I don't know. That's not me making or proposing anything. It's just assessing the collective scape, the mindscape. So that's all. And so in essence, on this slide, just realize half of the collective is ready to give up and move on. And the other half is ready to fight on. And the edge goes to the fight on people because they've got that top word, improve. Things are going to improve regardless of if they like it or not. Let's get to the astrology. This astrology today is brought to you by canacook.com. Head on over there to get some recipes. Get your pumpkin bread infused with CBD, and they've got a cool app now, and they've got a calculator. Look at that, edibles calculator. Isn't that cool? All right, so go check them out. Now, in the astrology, the overview I want to indicate here is that Venus is transitioning into Scorpio, like I talked about. That's about not quite halfway into our week. And then the sun is also transitioning, but into Sagittarius. I've already mentioned those, so we'll talk about those as we drill down day by day. But we have a square. That's Venus square Saturn. We've been talking about that. It's like a triple square because Saturn is conjunct with the others, and you'll see that, but that's dying out. And then you've got some Mercury things. We'll talk about all the Mercury. So let's move on. On Thursday, the 19th of November, 2020, Mercury is getting hit from all sides. So there's a lot to talk about here. And once I talk about a lot of these alignments, we don't have to keep saying them. One thing that is going to last the entire week is this deep inner conflict all week. Again, Mars and Pluto in a square. Both of these are rulers to Scorpio. Scorpio being the deep inner self, the shadow side, the Pluto is the inner power. That's one of the archetypes of Pluto. And then Mars, obviously the outer passion, get it done, fight on. The vindictiveness is just more of a Scorpio thing, but can be channeled through these two planets. And that's going to last all week, that square. All right. Then we have the Venus square that I mentioned. The dashed arrows, meaning it's waning, it's on its way out, it's decaying. That energy was strong, and it's with Venus being all about harmony and beauty, maybe sometimes finance, that was being contentious and contested to our Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, and Moon, even on Thursday. But that's starting to decay, as well as the sun is got that opportunity or sextile, the opportunity with the positive things, the positive transformation of the way things have always been. That's the Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn alignment that we've been talking about all year long, pretty much. That's decaying as well. So that opportunity with ego is decaying. Then finally, you've got Mercury with an easy trine, easy energy over to Neptune. So that's not real great for Mercury. I mean, you look at the green and you think, oh, that's good energy, but it's easy to get lost in your dreams because Mercury represents your thoughts and communication. Things are going to seem dreamy in your rational mind, and that's not a great place for Mercury. He's just going to get lost in all that minutia. Plus, he's adjusting to Uranus, but that's decaying out. That's going to end soon. All right. And then Friday, and maybe I should get it a little bit easier to see my cursor. We have a T-square. It's an emotional trap because it's the moon causing two 90-degree squares, one to Uranus, one to Mercury. It's going to be a transitory time, but your emotions are going to be your trap. Now, luckily, this trap is happening in Aquarius. Yay. And Aquarius is really great at being able to observe the emotions in there in the grandstand, just observing things. Emotions don't really register a lot with the Aquarians, and so you get that influence too, no matter where you are in the chart. But nonetheless, Aquarians can still fall into the trap of emotions, and that is the trap this day. Other than that, the other, like, look at Venus. It's already almost decaying off completely, and all the other aspects decaying. Now, we got a big disruption here on Saturday the 21st. So this is a big heads up. Put on your calendar. Venus is transitioning into Scorpio. That's the first thing. Well, Venus has a lot of disruption. She's getting challenged with a lot of changes. So she's coming out of her home, stepping outside, stepping deep into the waters of Scorpio. So things could get very passionate, very emotional. And also, she's in an opposition with Uranus, the planet of change. Now, opposition doesn't mean conflict with. It means more forcing her to balance. Well, ironically, Venus is all about balance anyway, but she's having to balance her balance with change. So she's including change into this picture. It's fortunate. That's the part of fortune right next to Uranus. It's going to be very fortunate to go with that flow and change, but that doesn't make it easy. And this alignment, this opposition with Venus opposed Uranus is going to be for the rest of the week, at least our CIRF week, okay? Then we have Mercury still with that easy ability to dream, and then adjusting to the fighting spirit of Mars. And then, of course, that inner power, inner struggle between our two Scorpio planets, Pluto and Mars, still there. It's going to be there all week. It's only going to get stronger. Then we have Sun is moving, not quite yet, but you can see the last stages in Scorpio. That's going to be later on the 21st. The Sun will go into Sagittarius. And in Sagittarius, it's free roaming, and this is going to feel really good. It's like if you were running in water, like Scorpio, if you were running in water, it's slow, it's heavy, and it may feel impossible. You maybe feel helpless. Well, all of a sudden you get up on dry land, and it's flat, and it goes on forever. That's Sagittarius. So you get up on that horse and gallop into the sunset. That's what Sun wants to do. However, square, not real balance with my emotions and that sort of thing. You might still be in that old trap that we mentioned yesterday. But anyway, just be aware of that. It's a new sensation later on in the 21st to hop out of the water and into dry land in Sagittarius. Now, Sagittarius is much more philosophical and spiritual even. So there is a lot of depth to it. But it represents mind as well, but the much deeper aspect or higher transcendent form of mind. It's kind of like the superconscious, if you will, of the zodiac, if you're bringing in Freud to this thing. All right, so that's the overview. Just a lot of sort of adapting here. It's forced adaptation. Venus is adapting, Sun is adapting, your ego, and then, of course, Uranus disrupting that sense of balance. Sunday, this is our last day of Sun sextile Saturn. So your ego opportunity, there was an opportunity for ego to adjust or to have some sort of advancement from this positive transformation of the status quo. But that's going to end on the 22nd. And everything else is still strong. Venus strong, opposed Uranus. And let's move on to Monday. Thoughts in general are going to get extra mystical today on the 23rd. And this is Monday, the 23rd. You have the moon transiting past Neptune. They're both water. Both of those together, emotions, speaking from the book called The Spiritual Anatomy of Emotions. This is your gateway to the mystical world. Thoughts, your rational mind easily slips into this mystical realm. So it could be a very a good place for a lot of people. If you're not used to this, it could be like taking a hit of acid for the first time. It could be discombobulating. Even though it's green and trine means easy energy, it doesn't always mean it's good. Okay. Now, Tuesday, the 24th, sun, main thing to say here is that the sun trines moon, which is, it feels very balanced here. And we have still an imbalance. There's irony for you with Uranus and opposed Venus, and the same aspects, Pluto square Mars. So still some contention, still some imbalance feeling, but that can take the edge off because it's very transitory. Sun, trine, moon. It takes the edge off. And then things for your mind, for logic, are getting a lot less dreamy on the 24th, or Tuesday. And then lastly, Mercury starts having some opportunities. As you can see, this is the first sextile, and there'll be 3 total, Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, as Mercury continues going direct. So opportunities mean that so Mercury in Scorpio has opportunities with this goal-oriented transformation. And so use your logic as best you can. It's kind of hard in Scorpio, but use your logic. There's an opportunity there. And that really goes well with the solution this week, which is nope, never mind. We got to waiting for the solution, but keep this in mind. There's an opportunity late in the week for your logic, all right? Now, let's talk about the I-Ching, and this is part of our triangulation process. We asked the collective to give us an I-Ching reading that demonstrates what's the main influence for this period of time, 11/19 through 11/25, 2020, and it came up with Hexagram 48. This is the well, and that matches the astrology perfectly because you've got Venus in depth of Scorpio, you've got Mercury in the depths of Scorpio, you got Sun going into the more mental depth of philosophy and higher level spirituality and that kind of thing. So it matches, and it's a direct corollary. Just as the well can be deepened to produce clear water, we can enrich our lives by delving deeply within. Now, I caution you, as I read this is not the solution. And so we don't want to be carrying this out. This is the influence. This is the way you're going to feel. You're going to feel like doing these things probably, but I caution you not to, because it goes directly against what we're supposed to be doing according to the solution slide. So beware of shallow thinking. The image of well suggests going further within produces greater clarity. Be patient. You will penetrate your problems in your own nature, blah, blah, blah. All right, we had 3 lines. No, we had 4 lines. This is line 2. This illustrates the situation of a person who possesses talents that are being ignored. Line 3, your abilities are not being recognized. So there's kind of some whining, complaining going on in that depth. It's the depth of the emotion basically is starting to come out, and you're not used to it, and it can feel really heavy. Line 4 says the walls of the well are currently being lined with stone, so the time is not yet ripe to lower the bucket. Well, that's a good thing. That matches our solution. So it's saying that behaviorally, don't go in yet. It's not ready. So I'm saying part of our solution is don't go deep within. Don't do shadow work this week. We have something else for you. Line 5, lastly, the well is fed with a clear, cool spring. This represents good and honest character that is as clean and refreshing as spring water. It's not enough to have access to a good well. For it to be of real value, you must drink from it. So there will be a time for going deep within, but probably not this week. All right, folks, we are ready for the solution, but let's hear from one of our sponsors before we do. Ironically, if you do want help going deep, schedule an appointment. It's intervention.com. You get psychotherapy, you can get astro coaching, etc., etc. So that's a great resource for you, especially for those of you having problems with this world in chaos. All right. Hexagram 62 is our solution, and it's attention to detail. Remember when I said that this was lockstep in relation to what's happening out in the real world? Look at this. So this is our solution now. It's saying do these things. Ambitious undertakings are not in order, but attention to small matters brings decent progress. You hear me? We're going to get decent progress here only by attending to the details. Power of the small is served by slow and steady advancement. You can achieve success even with few resources. So in other words, imagine this. You're going to have to look at the screen because I'm not going to read all of it, but attention to detail is vital for gathering, assembling, and presenting immaculate evidence in the court of law. You see where we're headed with this? And reading from this tweet that I've got on the screen, all levels of government and law enforcement are watching carefully for, including during cheat at your own peril, violators will be subject to maximum penalties, both civil and criminal. All right, this was actually out in October. It was recently retweeted again, warning people, you've been caught. All right, that is the solution. That's the main solution according to the I-Ching. Let's look at the Sidereal Astrology. So what we do is we take the tropical and we place it into our calculator, and we go the area of influence, which is depth. Remember, it was the depth. Well, I think the biggest depth is Venus coming out of her home of Libra, going into the depths of Scorpio. So I'm calling it the main influence here, and there's multiple ones, of course, but the main one is Venus going into Scorpio. So that plots hexagram 50 in the Rave Mandala, and then it plots Virgo in the Sidereal Astrology. Go look at the beginner's guide on the main channel if you're having questions about why we do this. All right, let's look at the hexagram. This is the most important Rave Mandala I think I've ever seen in the history of CIRF reports, because it talks about tribal law. This is the gate of values. It is the gate of tribal law. It is the awareness possibility of the three streams of the splenic awareness. It is the key gate in our well-being process. In other words, it is the heart of our personal immunity and our capacity to both assess and defend. This is incredible. I mean, you can look at this as both individually and collective, but it's in our innate nature to protect ourselves and have immunity. You see the irony of immunity. We have that virus going around, or alleged virus. Immunity should be strong. At this time, people are starting to take care of themselves a little bit or a lot more, which is great. I think we should be advertising that more, is working on your own personal immunity, but it has a bigger meaning. It's like a protection around you. And we are, according to this, using your ancient, I have this somewhere, ancient awareness, coming out of our most ancient awareness. It is a fundamental ingredient of human survival. This week, according to the Rave, it's about looking for threats, but from an ancient awareness perspective. It comes automatically. It comes from the depths. So that's the only place that this matches, the depth. Your innate sense of survival will be coming out this week naturally. Get in tune with it, according to the Rave. All right, that's it for that one. Now, you ready for the solution slide? This is probably the most important slide for us. And we have this depth. This is the well. This is supposed to be a really deep well. You see water at the bottom, and it matches the astrology almost perfectly. Digging deep. Don't buy into it, though. Instead, here's what we're going to do. And this is the triangulation slide. First, the I-Ching says, pay attention to the details, attention to small matters, achieve success even with a few resources. Do you see the importance of this at a collective scale? Attention to detail. Attention to detail. That's how you're going to succeed in the court of law, which the rave hexagram talked about tribal law. Interesting, huh? All right. The gate of values was the 50. Gate of tribal law, key gate in immunity and capacity to assess and defend. Do you see the overlap in that? It's attention to detail, but also looking for threats, according to the mandala. You should already see some overlap, but then you bring in sidereal Virgo. This is discrimination, detailed, analytical, hard work, artistic. If there's an OCD in the zodiac, it's Virgo. There's lists and organization and making your perfectionists are over here as well. This is Virgo. All right. So what's the overall triangulation? Here is the epitome of the solution this week. The individual collective well-being is highlighted this week through Rave Gate 50. Success this week starts with immunity and the fundamental ingredient of human survival, ancient awareness. You are to invoke your best Virgo traits, especially discrimination, attention to detail. And by, obviously, I'm not talking about discrimination in terms of racial discrimination. That's the different context. And what we're talking about is the facts. We want to get to the facts. We want to discriminate false from fact. All right? That's what we're doing. And then we want responsibility and reliability. That's the Virgo. Seek the facts. Turn over every rock. This is not a week of bulldozing ahead. All right? Instead, this brings misfortune if you just going all out, especially with that Pluto square Mars aspect. Pay attention, head on a swivel, take responsibility for yourself. That's the immunity piece too, as well as far as health goes. Keep aware of your intuition, follow your instincts, but do not live in fear. I can't stress this enough. The influence of the well, or the influence of digging deeper, that's where these emotions are going to be coming from. So if I had another suggestion, is just let those emotions go on past. I would even go so far as to say, don't give the emotions attention. I don't like saying that as a therapist. I love people generally honoring those emotions. But in this week, I think it's a disaster to honor the emotion and go into it and experience it all, especially with the Mercury having this trick of going into the dreams and Neptune and the mystical realm, because there's a bunch of emotions there and it's all false. It's fantasy. Neptune is fantasy. All right. So I would stay out of fear, for the most part, ignore emotions, and focus on turning over the rocks and getting to the core facts and comparing and maybe even categorizing truth from fiction. Now, for those of you who are weak but burnout maybe, and worn out and tired of this whole fighting for something, maybe fighting for the plan, don't worry. You don't even have to, there's no requirement for you to pay attention to certain facts, like getting to the bottom of the election thing or getting bottom to the facts of the COVID thing. There's no responsibility for you to retweet things and post things and make people aware. That's not this week. But if you're worn out of this whole election thing, my suggestion is at least do the Virgo thing and discriminate in your own experience, in your own individual house, your apartment, your to-do list. Make sure you get into that mindset, because that will help the people who actually need to be detail-oriented. You can even add on there to, pray for these people. You can meditate for them, influence them that way. But you getting into your mindset of more Virgo and paying attention to things and attention to detail will put that vote into the collective influence for the greater good of, hey, this is what we need to do collectively, is pay attention and and attention to detail. Seek facts, double check your work, verify evidence, etc., etc. It's all these sort of perfectionism, right and wrong sort of things that I normally don't talk about. It's this week as the solution. All right. It is the week to nitpick, but don't be overly critical. Don't be overly stubborn. That's the side effect of Virgo. Don't be uptight all the time. Don't be people pleasing. These are the sort of the downsides of Virgo. All right, there's our wrap. There's 30 minutes. If you haven't seen the eye-opening astrology that I did last Friday, I'm going to put a card up above right now for you to go review that, because if you thought 2020 was crazy, wait till you see what's happening astrologically in early to late December, mid-December through mid-February. The likes I have never seen before. It's amazing how everything lines up for some. I mean, it matches the what's in the stars with what's expected on these big election dates, like December 14th, January 20th. You can't make this stuff up, and you need to be prepared. So go find that video if you've already seen it. Maybe review it again. It's very possible that things that do black out between now and, say, March. It's very possible, just based on the astrology of it. All right, everybody, comments below. Thanks for being here. And we will see you one more time before Thanksgiving. So take care. Thanks.